right. I think the first thing we got to talk about is Dustin Fox. I was on Twitter, yesterday. Um, I saw everybody's reaction to what he said about how he doesn't think Baker Mayfield's that good of a quarterback. Um, Tagged him in the post. That was just, I thought that was kind of too much, too much.
When I listen to Browns fans, whether it be media, whether it be fans, I'm so torn about how I really feel about it because Cleveland fans are loyal, but sometimes to a fault. And it makes it bad because everyone has an opinion. Everyone thinks their opinions are right, regardless of people who are actually in it and how they felt when they were in it, regardless of their opinion. So I've had my opinions, and obviously it's different than the next person's opinion because they've never been in it. Mm-hmm. And so I see it through a different light, and they don't see it that way. But because they love the Browns and their team, it's the loyalty of the fault. And so when you talk about if you're Dustin Fox, once for sure you should never tag Baker. I mean, it's okay to have your opinion, whether you think he's good or not. It's okay to have your opinion. When it comes to football, I'm one of those guys who I think that's the realest thing. That's the thing I can be the most real about because that's what I know the most about. I might not know my name sometimes, but I know football. And so, like I said, everyone has their opinions, and like I said, if you don't like a person or feel a person's good, that's cool. You can say that, but don't don't tag the player in it because they're still human beings. Everybody's still a player, and they want to feel good about themselves regardless.
Yeah, I agree, and I think with the negative narrative that the Cleveland media has, it's just. You can't be doing it. And Mary Kay Cabot got blasted about that relationship. And I think that, throwing this a couple weeks later is just unprofessional. And especially with Tony Grossi, with what he said a couple years ago about him being a midget. It's just, I don't, see the need for it.
But my problem is this, if that's what he really feels, why can't he say that?
No, I agree.
Because if he's not in the media and he's sitting around with his boys at the local bar, they're saying, "Oh, this midget," That's what they're saying. But this is his job, and so he actually said it. I look at Cleveland fans, and I think a lot of times they get upset with the Cleveland media. But say Mary Kay or Tony Grossi is putting something out. You think they're just making that up? Somebody's putting it out. Mm-hmm. Someone is saying something, or they're losing all credibility if they go out there and just throw some things out there. So somebody's putting it out there. They're just running with it, and that's their job.
Yeah, that is true. I think I personally support what Mary Kay does because obviously I think she's one of the better reporters. Even if she does focus on the drama, the stuff like that, she makes her phone calls. She does the things that she needs to do. And I've had to explain that to people for a couple of years. Like, you may not like it, but she has the resources and she's one of the best that we have. So we just kind of have to, deal with it. And she doesn't even say anything he's a bad quarterback. I tag him in a post, all that stuff. She even said on her podcast that she reached out to him, had a phone call with him, and or tried to have a phone call with him, and she's done stuff like that in the past where she made a negative story, quote unquote, and she apologized for it. She talked about it, and everything got figured out. So while I think that they have the freedom to do it, it's just kind of gotta think about it.
Yeah, you do, but I think if the majority of the Cleveland Browns fans didn't love Baker so much, they wouldn't even care. If it was a player, say that they didn't like years ago, say a Corey Coleman,
yep,
would they care? No, they wouldn't care. But because they feel like Baker's the only one who's won games and he's the best quarterback since Bernie, that's what they think. Then so everyone wants to ride with him and be behind him. And he can be a good quarterback. He can service the team. He can go out there and win a lot of football games, as he proved last year, if everything goes right. I mean, he was hurt this past year, and we all know that. But once you step on that field, that hurt goes out the window. You know, I mean, you can't say I'm hurt when you throw an interception, but no one brings it up when you throw a 50-yard Hail Mary to Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Mm-hmm.
You can't pick and choose when you get to be hurt. Either you're hurt or you're not hurt. Go out there and play. And if you're going out there and play, perform at the highest level. Because I played with a broken foot. I played with fractured, a separated shoulder. I played with a fractured hand. I went out there, no excuses to play. And that's how players should go out there. And so, I mean, Baker can be a good quarterback for their team. He just has to do the right things. I mean, I always talk about him playing smart football. Smart football sometimes means just going down, taking the sack. Sometimes means throwing the ball out of bounds. But you got to play smart football. So everyone talks about he was hurt, he did this and did that. That has nothing to do with decision making.
Yeah, I agree.
My labrum might hurt, but what does that mean? My brain hurts also because I'm sitting here throwing it to number 25 for whoever other team. Also, that's not hurt. That's decision making.
Yeah. And I think after he got that injury, like in the middle of the season, he was like, he had a bad game and he was like, oh, I feel, I'm really banged up. Everything's hurting. I'm not feeling that great. And then he comes out a couple weeks later, has a really good game. And he's like, this is the best I've ever felt. And he suffered that injury week 2. And then he comes out against the Vikings. He rolls out right. He's doing these high steps. He's, taking contact. He's diving for the ball. Labrum right here, he's getting hit and he's popping up, he's all good, and that's why people like him. He's a tough guy, but I think you need to take your career into consideration. You need to take the team's needs into consideration, and I just personally don't think I think he should have sat out as soon as he got that injury, got the surgery, whatever. I think it hurt our playoff chances for him to get in that game. And do I think Case Keenum would have led us to playoffs? Not really, but
really. Really, because I do. Let me do this for you. Let's do this scenario. Okay, Baker gets hurt. Baker goes out there. Say Baker says, and Baker and his management team say, "I'm not playing," because we got to think about this. When it's all said and done, this is a business. Each player has to take care of himself and his family. It's all about the team, but you still have to take care of yourself first, right? So let's say Baker says, I'm hurt. I'm not playing. And if in his own selfish mind as a player, Baker Mayfield, the business of Baker Mayfield, just hopes that Case Keenum doesn't win any games with this team.
That's true.
Because then he can say, well, I went 11-5 last year and won a playoff game. Now, then you have the Baker Mayfield who's thinking, okay, Case can win games with this team. So I'm going to go out there and play hurt. Because if Case goes out there, we go 12-5, what have you, make the playoffs this year, then once again, why do we need to pay you? Then there's the scenario, I'm hurt, I'm going to tough it out, I'm going to show them I can play. And then you have the Browns organization saying he's not playing that well. Let's keep him out there because now we don't have to pay
him. Those are good points. I didn't think about that one. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think either way, he's going to play out his 5th year. And he was going to get the surgery anyway. It was whether it's at the beginning of the season or at the end of the season. He's going to be healthy going into next year. He's going to play it out. And even if Case Keenum, I think if Case Keenum were to lead us to the playoffs this year, get eliminated, wild card, first round, whatever, Baker's still going to come in the next year, still going to evaluate his paycheck. And then at the end of the year, we're going to see how much money he's going to be making, regardless of, what Case Keenum potentially would have done.
I know, but if Case Keenum had led us to the playoffs, then you don't really think about what you need in Baker because that proves you don't need a franchise quarterback to win, to go to the playoffs. Case Keenum isn't a franchise quarterback, but I still feel like he could have led us to the to the playoffs if he would have played the entire season, just like he led Minnesota to the playoffs. I feel like he could have done that. And so I think that was the fear in the Baker camp, that Case Keenum leads us to the playoffs, because then they can say, we don't really need a franchise quarterback. And to me, in my honest opinion, I don't think Baker's a franchise quarterback. I think he can win a lot of games with this team. I mean, but when you think about franchise quarterbacks in this NFL, how many are there? There aren't many.
It's true. Yeah.
You got Patrick Mahomes, obviously Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen. We can say Joe Burrow now. You got Justin, and you got the X Factor in Lamar. However you want to call it, he is still a game changer. And so was that 7 or 8?
Yeah.
Oh, Russell when he's being Russell. But that's 7 or 8. But everyone doesn't have that. But you still find a lot of teams winning football games. If you're going to go to the next level, you need that guy. You need that guy. But you don't need that guy if your team is pound for pound the best roster in the league, like the Browns had this year.
I could see that. And I think that comes to light with the 49ers. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo's anything. I mean, he threw for 130 yards or something like that. They barely ran the ball that game. You get a bunch of, defensive stops. That's what's going to win you a game. So I could definitely see that point. And we won against the Broncos with Dearness Johnson and Case Keenum. And, I think that's definitely something that they could look into. But I still think that Baker's needs the one more year just to prove himself and see what's going to happen.
And maybe he does. He needs to be healthy. And he obviously has to be healthy. Everything, no injuries, hopefully, no COVID, hopefully, all those kind of things. Hopefully that won't play a part of next season. But when it's all said and done, the decision-making has to be better. It has to be better. And so now I'm going to flip this.
Okay.
The decision-making has to be better, but who helps him make those decisions better? The coaching.
Yep.
And I think he's not getting the coaching that he needs. I don't think that when we're talking about, especially pass plays, I don't think that we have an offense that is built to just go out there and throw the ball 40 times a game. We're built on running the ball, play action pass and all that. That's fine. But if you look at all these playoff teams, when all those teams needed to pass, they drop back and they throw that thing and they're finding guys wide open. We'll go to, say, OBJ. Mm-hmm. People were saying we couldn't get him the ball. He was double teamed, blah, blah, blah. So is Devontae Adams. So is Cooper Kupp. So is DeAndre Hopkins when he's healthy. So is A.J. Brown in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. So is Tyreek Hill. So is Travis Kelce. But they find a way to get them the ball. So if you want your playmakers to have the ball, you design plays, you have plays that can get them the ball if you want them to get it. I don't think we did that well enough for our players, regardless of who it was. If it was OBJ, if it was Jarvis, it was DPJ. I don't think we did that well enough in the passing game in order to take advantage of what people were giving us, especially when we had teams line up 8 in a box.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Stefanski kind of over this past season, I think Stefanski tried to let Odell be New York Odell, right? He's going down the field all the time. He's, doing these deep crossers, whatever. And Baker Mayfield simply couldn't, make the throws he needed to make. And if you have Odell on these slants, I personally think putting him on slants is, guaranteed 7-10 yards, whatever. Do that. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's proven to be physical. Get him over sideline, whatever. There's a lot of things that you could do, and it obviously wasn't utilized. I think it took a while for Kareem Hunt to even get implemented into the system. And like the injury to Anthony Schwartz, that definitely sucked. But you had Demetric Felton, you had a bunch of guys that could get implemented into this game plan, and it just simply didn't work. And it very frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating because you have all these playmakers and you can't figure out how to get them the ball. And,
Yep.
and everyone's different. So they don't get it. They shouldn't get it the same. You can't just go out there and say, okay, these are 10 plays. This is what we run, regardless of who we have. No, you run the plays. If you're trying to get a certain person the ball, you run those plays that fit his game.
Yep.
That's why you drafted him, or that's why you signed him as a free agent, because this is what he did to make you want him. You don't just say, oh, we're just going to throw him in here because it works. No, that's not how it works. That if you're not going to be a system coach, because Belichick does that, that's fine. He knows how to do that. He's once doing it. Everyone else doesn't know how to do that. They get the best players and then they figure out what they can do and they make plays with that. And so I think we just have to do a better job of getting these players in position to make plays. And once again, that goes back to Baker being healthy, Baker making the right decision when they call these passing plays, and once again, the passing plays being better than they are.
Yeah, I'm obviously not. I wasn't a football player, right? But I'll go in on NFL, look at Game Pass, look at the film, all that stuff. You see Baker Mayfield double clutching a lot of these balls on simple like curls, stuff that's right in front of him. There's sometimes somebody on a curl and then you have a guy over the top and he's just not figuring it out and not processing it. And I think that happened a lot in 2019 too. And then it carried over to this year and it just was a huge mess. So there's definitely a lot that he needs to fix. And the footwork is definitely something that he needs to fix. And I know over the offseason, they tried to tweak his technique a little bit and get him to where they wanted him to be. But I obviously don't think he's handling that very well.
I mean, footwork, obviously, when they're quarterbacks throwing the ball is important. However, it goes back to something you just mentioned. Like if you got a little curl or sit over right in front of him in a deep end or a post behind him, a lot of times they were taking sacks. Say the Steelers, the second last Steelers game, 3rd and 2, guy right in front of him on the sit route, pumps the ball, doesn't throw it to him, takes the sack. Mm-hmm. This is coaching. This has to do with coaching, and which is footwork also. But if he's ready, 1, 2, 3, bam, it's gone. We get the first down, we move on. And this is what we're not coaching. This is what we're not doing throughout the course of the year. And this is what I'm having a problem with. That's what I have a problem with is why are we still doing this in week 17, 2 years later? Right? This is 2 years later. Why are we still doing this in week 17? We should, and I say this all the time. The problem with NFL, with a lot of NFL teams is when they get players, when they draft them for a certain purpose, whatever it is, whatever position they play, they bring them in, they expect them to know what to do in the NFL. It's a totally different ball game. Things are moving faster. The schemes are mixed up, and coverage is disguised more, and all this kind of stuff. So you have to teach these guys, and so they think these guys are going to come in just knowing how to play football. No, they know how to be an athlete. You have to teach them to be NFL football players, and so I think we're losing that. And once these guys get in the NFL, that you still teach.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the draft guys, Garrett Wilson, Traylon Burks, Drake London, Chris Olave, people like that. There's a decent amount of stuff that I'm not comfortable with just throwing them out there and saying, yep, you're going to be the reliable guy this year. Go ahead and be the best you can do. And like, I think with Traylon Burks, I personally don't see like a decent amount of separation when he's getting – the offense that Arkansas ran was kind of weird with him, but he doesn't get like enough separation for me, in my opinion. And I really like him. I really think that that's somebody that we could turn into a decent wide receiver too, depending on what we decide to do this year. And I think Chris Olave could be more of a slot guy. Do we really need a slot guy? I don't know. So there's a lot of things in this draft class that we're going to have to tweak. And right now, with the way that we were running our receivers this year, I'm not comfortable with getting the maximum production out of them that we should.
And so when you look at a lot of these receivers, I mean, it really doesn't happen often where they come out here and just blast through the NFL like a Jamar Chase. But once again, he's comfortable with Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow's comfortable with him. So they know what these guys have done. They did it in college. They know what kind of plays they ran to make them comfortable. They're still doing it, right? Yep. You got to have, and going back to guys not getting enough separation, just the NFL. You know, there's not going to be separation all the time. So quarterbacks have to trust that these guys are going to make plays. You know, and they have to go out there and make them when they get that opportunity. But once again, it's if you scheme things for these guys, they're able to go out there and make plays. It's easier. Devontae Adams, granted, he's probably the best receiver in the league right now, but they find a way to get this guy wide open. Cooper Kupp went to the Triple Crown this year. Playoff game, wide open.
Yep.
Now that should never happen, but that's these coaches scheming this for their players that they want to have the ball. We have to figure that out. We have to get some players who can get open if they can't, because to try to create a little separation as you're talking. But we have to scheme them open, get players who can create some separation, teach Baker to make the right decision, and most importantly, which we have not talked about, is run the damn ball.
Yep.
Run the damn ball. Because if we run the ball, it just makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at the beginning of the season, a little bit in the beginning of the season, I think the offensive line wasn't off to like the best start. I think they kind of picked it up towards like week 7, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But the run game was just kind of, I think Nick Chubb was making, some not the best cuts. And then he's getting stuck behind the line a little bit. And I think that's where Stefanski kind of got afraid, is where, this isn't working the way it should. Let's just go out there and see if Baker can fix this up and ramp it up. And clearly it didn't work. So I don't know what needs to be done in the offseason. Obviously, need to get a little more creative, need to get your guys open. But for right now, I think everything is laid out in front of you, and it seems pretty simple.
So going to your point, you didn't think the run was working well. So you thought maybe he just said, let's go see if Baker can do this as far as throwing the ball. That's fine and dandy. But when you throw the ball, 3 things can happen. 2 of them are bad. So continue to run the ball. If you're a running back, and once again, you can run the ball when you're behind as well. People tend to forget that. But if you're a running back, it's just like being a jump shooter. How do you get a rhythm if you don't run a play? If you don't keep running the ball? The line, they need the same rhythm, because they know if we're running this trap over to the right side, they know versus certain defenses how they have been playing it. So they get into a rhythm of how they need to block it, how the running back's seeing it, and all that. But we don't run the ball. People think the Cleveland Browns are a running football team. They think the Cleveland Browns walk off the bus, they're going to run the ball. And so they load 8, 9 in the box. And you can still run against 8 and 9 in the box. You just can't run directly into it because you're outnumbered. If you run off tackle and outside of it, you can outnumber them. And I think that's a thing that we got away from. We got to throwing the ball, and then you see what game was that? Maybe Green Bay, Pittsburgh, one of those games, one of the last few games when Nick Chubb had 4 carries at halftime.
Oh, yeah.
What are we doing? You have one of the best running backs in the league, and we're not giving the ball. We can run the ball regardless of 8 people in the box. We were successful regardless of whether it was Nick, Dearness, Kareem. We could run the ball because of that offensive line up front. Go on and trust them and do it. We win a lot more football games if we do that.
I completely agree. We have the best running back duo in the NFL. That's,
Trio,
yeah.
Trio.
Even better. It's just, it's got to work. It's got to work. And we saw Stefanski say, "Oh, Chubb's gonna get a lot more carries this week," and then he gets like maybe 4 more carries and did really nothing. But
right, so that 4 more carries gets him up to 16.
yeah, yeah,
Instead of the 12. And,
yeah,
and that's the problem. You go out there, and it didn't happen all the time, but most of the time, you look, we passed the ball more than we ran the ball.
mm-hmm.
When we had opportunities to run the ball and win games, we could have ended a couple games just running the ball. First Pittsburgh game, we could end it. We could end it. Green Bay, we just stopped running.
Mm-hmm.
If we throw 3 interceptions and not 4, we win that game. We just stop running. And so I think once again in year 2, it's sad to say, but we still don't have an identity on offense.
I agree with that.
We still don't have an identity. We know what everyone thinks we are, but we don't run the ball. So we can't be considered a running team if we don't run the ball.
Yeah.
Then they say we can't pass and we throw the ball to the other team. And we're not very good at it as far as scheming things open. So what are we? And back to your point, what are we doing this offseason to get it better?
Yeah. It's weird. And I think Stefanski's also like a tight end heavy guy. And when you have Austin Hooper, who's dropping 2 passes a game that could be converted for first downs, then Njoku was the only reliable receiver this year. Let's be honest. And I think he needs to be re-signed. I know he wants to be here. The team wants him to be here. I don't know how much it's going to take to get him back, but I'm going to be okay with any price to get him back. And then you have Harrison Bryant, who I think is a really good tight end. He got open a couple times, the times that he was in there. It's just Austin Hooper is the one piece that's kind of he's a great blocker, and I think that's a really important thing. But if he's trying to do a block and release and he's going out and he's dropping a ball, granted, most of them have been over his head. That's kind of Baker's fault, but at the same time, that needs to be cleaned up also.
Is he a great blocker in the pass game or the running game, meaning Austin Hooper?
I think he's a good pass blocker, honestly. You get him up the field.
You can bring in another lineman. We don't need to pay him all that money to be tight end to block.
Yep.
You can't pay him all that money to block to pass protect as a tight end and then drop the ball sometimes when they throw it to you.
Yeah, that's true.
You need to go out there, make catches, you don't have to be Travis Kelce, but be something like him. You know what I mean? You got to catch the ball when they throw it to you. I mean, everybody drops the ball, no question. Mm-hmm. And people are crazy if they don't believe that. But you can't drop it 2 out of 3 times, right?
Yep.
If people, I mean, you get Devontae Adams. I'm sure he drops the ball. He drops maybe 1 pass, but if he has 10 or 11, that 9 or 10 that he catches are something special. So no one really remembers that one that he dropped. And so I think that's what we're not getting from these guys. Like Austin Hooper's getting paid all this money. And so we're losing games. So when guys drop the ball, it stands out more.
Yeah.
Because it's plays that we had to make in order to give ourselves a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk about Austin Hooper, the money he makes, catch the damn ball.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because if we cut him, it's save 11 million, but then it's like a cap penalty of 9 million. So you're saving $2 million for what? And that's the thing that I've had to explain to a lot of people is that, regardless of if we cut him or not, it's going to be worth nothing really. We get somebody who drops balls off of our team, but whatever, move that 2 million to Njoku and get him like an extra, couple of thousand and then distribute that, whatever, but it's not really going to do much.
Yeah. I think it's, and it's tough because a lot of times guys know when they didn't play very well, and they know if they said you should take a pay cut, they know they should, but they're not going to. Yeah. I wouldn't either. And I wouldn't either because it's just the nature of the beast. You get out there, you never know when it's going to be your last play, so you got to get all you can while you're here.
Mhm.
Just I mean, because that's just what football is. And I love football. I tell people all the time, I would definitely play football for free if everyone did.
Yeah. Yeah.
but if somebody gets paid, I have to get paid too. And so I understand if you went to a guy, especially if he's towards the tail end of his contract and said, "I need you to take a pay cut," and he doesn't want to do it. I understand it, and so it makes sense because once again, when it's all said and done, it's okay for a player to make a business decision, and that's something that gets lost with fans,
Mm-hmm.
fans and media, because if a team makes a business decision, it's okay, but it doesn't seem like it's okay when the player makes a business decision.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right,
Absolutely.
and people seem to lose that
Mhm.
because it's your team. You think this player, a certain player, should help the team out by taking a pay cut or what have you. No, he shouldn't. He should help his family out by not taking it.
Yeah.
And it happens too often that people think they don't think about the player and his situation on the business side. They just think about the team and their fandom.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing with Jarvis Landry. He's making, I forgot what he's due this year. It's
14, right?
14. Yeah, they're like, take a pay cut. Obviously, he played with an injury this year. He did the best that he could, but he's not going to take a restructure. It's not going to happen. I don't even know what you would cut that restructure down to, but he was on the team in, early on when Baker was still developing. I personally, at the beginning, didn't think that Jarvis would want to be, a part of like, oh, okay, young quarterback, whatever, etc. But then now that they got into the flow of it, they developed chemistry, they did all this stuff. Why would he take a pay cut? That doesn't make any sense to me. He's been there through the long run. He's playing through an injury. Just like Baker thinks he deserves money for playing through his injury, Jarvis should keep his money for playing through his injury.
Is he at this point, is he 14 million worth?
No.
Yeah. No. Okay. So as a if I'm Andrew Berry, I know that he's not 14 million worth.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Jarvis Landry, oh yes, I am.
Yeah.
That's what my contract says. That's what I get.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it's a tug of war. It's just like, would Jarvis want to be here enough? Does he believe in this team enough that they could win, that he would want to take a pay cut to stay?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to get at, is like, he's not going to take a restructure. So it's either he keeps this contract or he's gone.
Right.
It's one or the other. And I personally think he's going to be gone. It's going to stink because we have Donovan Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz as our receivers at the moment. But, that's what the 13th overall pick is for.
And which was my pick.
Exactly.
So if they use it right, you might get a good one.
Yeah, man, it didn't work out at all like anybody thought it would this year, and it's really frustrating because.
Are you kidding me? Do you know what I said our record was going to be? 13-4. I was
really
around telling people. I mean, and obviously it's based on the schedule and what teams had done in the previous year. But a lot of these teams that had losing records last year end up having winning records this year and going to the playoffs, or having a chance to go to the playoffs. And so those teams got better and we got worse.
Yeah.
Same time. And so it just didn't, and we still could have won a bunch of games. Not even playing well. We still could have won a bunch of these games that we lost. You remember in the beginning of the year, everybody wanted to fire Joe Woods. And I was telling folks, do not hit. These guys have, it's like 7 or 8 new starters to this team. They don't know how to play with each other. They don't have this system down. They don't know what's going on out there. And people are flying around and they're trying to think about what they're doing instead of just being able to react. Now, towards the end, it was the defense that was carrying this team.
Exactly.
Giving an opportunity to win each and every game. And our offense, which was in its second year, wasn't doing anything.
No. And the Chargers game, I think, okay, so the Kansas City game, first game of the season, John Johnson has Tyreek Hill, wide down the field, just loses sight of him, whatever, touchdown. If that was prevented, would we have won that game? I believe so. If you look at the Chargers game, just completely fell apart on defense. Same thing with John Johnson again. I think that happened twice where he left Mike Williams wide open. Easy touchdown. It's just very unfortunate.
You have your
not until 350. Yeah, I know.
But
anyway.
At least he came in repping a CLE.
Anyway, I really think after that Chargers game, they were like, just got to turn it up. And then you move on to the Cardinals game. Again, lose that game, just kind of fell apart. But then they really picked it up. I think PFF had them as the fourth best secondary at the end of the season. Had, a really good pass rush. Tackles were being made. Anthony Walker ended with like 107 tackles or something like that. He was really under the radar. Run defense, I think that was pretty good. We didn't get what we wanted out of Malik Jackson, which is kind of unfortunate because he was really hyped up coming into this year. But I really think that defense took a big step up. And Jadeveon Clowney did what nobody expected him to do. And 9 sacks, best statistical season he's had in a while, fully healthy. It's just fantastic.
I don't know why people wouldn't expect that. I think he's got lost in the shuffle because like playing in Seattle, he played well. I live in Seattle, so I got to see it all the time. People's like, oh, he only has 3 or 4 sacks. He's not playing well. That's not true. He's being disruptive. Mm-hmm. He's pressuring the quarterback. He's hurrying the quarterback. He's forcing fumbles. He's scoring touchdowns on fumble recovery. And he plays well in the run game. And so people were like, "Oh, he's lost it. He's not the number 1 pick he used to be," which people always tend to say. But now you get him on the other side from Myles Garrett, and things look totally different, don't they? And because he played well. Because to me, that's the number 1 signing we should have. He's number 1.
I completely agree.
Keep them together because they are the anchor of that defense. Keep them together.
Yeah. And Myles really needed this. And I think with Takk McKinley too, unfortunately he was out for the season, but I really think that that's a good addition. This is going to be a really good edge group for the next coming years if we can lock up Clowney for a little bit and try to make another playoff run this year. That's going to be a really, really solid piece of this defense.
Yeah, and we'll make a playoff run. I wish we wouldn't have. I mean, I understand that it's a pride thing and you want to be 8 and 9 instead of 7 and 10, but hey, why not play the fourth place schedule? Why not? But when it's all said and done, I think if we keep the defense intact, everyone comes back and plays well. They know the system. They've been there for a year already. We do that. We do something about our offensive scheming. We got it. We obviously have to do something about that in order to be better. And because of who I am and what I've done, special teams.
Yep.
Can we do something on special teams? Granted, you gotta make kicks. We haven't found the kicker, but even in the Green Bay game, was that Green Bay or Pittsburgh? Green Bay maybe. Oh, when he missed the first extra point. That's fine. But after that, the guy was like, it was his first game. Mm-hmm. In a hostile environment with a lot of pressure on him. He missed that first extra point, cool. But then after that, bam, with a couple field goals. So if he gets another opportunity, we probably go to win that game and with a chance to go to the playoffs. But so we got to ensure up our special teams, kicking, punting, returning, and just figure it out. So there's so many things that unfortunately with this roster that we have to fix. You have this great roster on paper, and we still have to fix a whole bunch of things, which sounds bad, and it can be done. We just got to do it.
I think the same thing. Special teams, don't know why Donovan Peoples-Jones is on the field as much as he is for kick returns, honestly. I think after last season, they should have learned that lesson. But Demetric Felton did good at the beginning of the season when he was back there.
I think, punt returns, he dropped a couple. I mean, one game I was at, I know he dropped one because of the sun, because I asked him. I saw him after the game. I was like, the sun got you. And he's like, yeah. And people think that's an easy job. If it were easy, everyone would do it, right? But he had never done it before. He didn't do it in college. He played running back, he played receiver, he returned kicks before, but he didn't do that. And that's a hard job. And so once again, it goes back to coaching for me. If you're in that situation as a punt returner, what's the first thing they do tell you? Catch the ball, right? But you don't have to catch the ball. That's what people lose. They lose sight. You don't have to catch the ball, and it's still your ball.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah. So if you're in a bad situation where the sun is in your eyes, or you think you're about to get hit, you can get away. You can yell, Peter, 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 tell everyone to get away. You don't have to catch it. It might take a bad roll. You might lose field position, but your team still has the ball, which is the most important thing. And that's what coaches need to tell these returners.
I completely agree. Completely agree. That's something we don't see on TV either, is the sun. You don't know the situation really if you're not down on the field, if you're not at their point of view. So that's definitely important for people.
I remember playing in Denver one time, and it was snowing out there. And I was back there for a punt, and I'm looking straight up in the air to catch the ball on the punt. And a snowflake hit me right in the eye as the ball was getting close, and I took off running away from the ball. And so I come to the sideline, the coach is like, "What are you doing?" I said, "A snowflake hit me in the eye. I wasn't going to sit there and try to catch it with one eye and not get the ball." We still have the ball.
Yep.
That's the most important thing about it. You have the ball. They punted the ball. You have it. Your offense has the opportunity to go out there. Now, if I go out there and do something stupid, then they might get the ball and gain 40 yards in doing so. And so so once again, it has a lot to do with coaching. So I think like I said, we got to get better on defense, got to get better on offense, got to get better in special teams, but we got to get better coaching also.
Yep.
Hey, everyone has to get better, and they say that every week in every press conference. We just got to be better. Well, then be better. Be better. Get better.
Yeah, same thing with Freddie Kitchens. I'm not saying that Stefanski is like Freddie Kitchens or anything, but Hugh Jackson, Freddie Kitchens did the same thing. We'll get better. This loss is on me. I'm gonna go figure out what happened, and then it doesn't get figured out.
Yeah. So hopefully they have a couple months to figure this out. They got a couple months before the draft to figure out what they're gonna do, and then after that, there's a few more months to figure out what's gonna happen come September.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.